Well, happy game day, gentlemen. The day has finally come. Team Canada taking on Sweden tonight for their first game action of the Four Nations face-off. And it kind of felt like a day of normalcy here. Canada hosting an optional skate this morning. Players on the ice, McDavid, Crosby, Konechny out there, and all three goaltenders. It kind of feels like a normal game day routine for a lot of these players heading into their first matchup tonight.
Certainly, and even just reading off the vibes of the coaches, John Cooper for Canada, Sam Hallam on the Swedish side, a little more serious, a little less introspective and going deep on what all this means. I mean, they're digging into the matchups. They're digging into making sure their teams are ready. And for John Cooper, I mean, look, this has been a long time coming. Remember, he was going to coach Canada at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, had that included NHL players. He's had to wait a long, long time to get back behind the national team bench here tonight. And so, you know, I think that there's that feeling too, Kenzie, when you're talking about the Canadian guys, whether it's the McKinnons and all these players have just been dying to do this, and now they're very focused and ready for the game.
They want to win, right? And for Team Sweden, they announced their starting goaltender tonight. Gustafsson will get the nod. I think maybe there was a conversation in Sens fans hopeful it would be Linus Ullmark, and yet they'll go with Gustafsson.
Yeah, so a mild surprise from the point of view that people who cover the Swedish national team all thought it might be Ullmark, based on the fact that he's the more experienced goalkeeper. What I would say is that the Swedish coaches probably would have gone with Ullmark had he not been hurt right before the Four Nations. I think they feel that, you know, he didn't play a lot of games before this, and they just feel like more of a sure thing in Gustafsson, who's having a nice year for the Minnesota Wild. That still does not close the door, as Sam Hallam, the head coach of Sweden, said to us, that Ullmark can't end up rotating in and playing one of these games here before the end of the tournament.
So we look at Canada's lineup, not a whole lot of changes, really. It looks like Konechny healthy enough to play in this tournament. Do you expect much line shifting throughout this tournament?
Man, I wish I had a crystal ball.
Yeah.
I mean, I think obviously you go in not looking to line shift. I mean, this thing's going to play out in 8-9 days now from the starting point of this game till the trophy's handed out. So you just hope it goes perfectly. If you're John Cooper, you're hoping there's no injuries. But I think he knows he doesn't have a long time here. And so if it's through two periods and Canada hasn't broken through in the opener on Wednesday night, I mean, maybe he's juggling things around. Pierre's been hitting the button on the nuclear option here. Do you see McKinnon and McDavid maybe grouped together on a line? I mean, I think it's possible if Canada needs a goal. But if they're ahead and everything goes well, then these will be the lines. He just rolls them one after another.
And we should mention Sweden is the home team technically, and they have the last line change in this game. Right. So that's going to be fascinating to me in terms of the chess game, because they want Brodin and Hedman out against the most dangerous offensive option for Canada. Now the question is, do they see that as Connor McDavid, or do they see that as McKinnon and Crosby? We'll know pretty fast if he's chasing a matchup, or because it's their first game, maybe Sam Hallam says, you know what, I got to get these guys out here in a flow, and maybe they don't chase the matchup. I think he'll chase the matchup.
Well, yeah, it'll be an interesting storyline to follow as well. And you think, too, you talked about it, CJ, the short turnaround for this tournament. I mean, 2 full practices, a little optional skate here. So implementing structure and systems for these coaches, it's a balancing act. But it really seems like, speaking to the players here, when they're playing free, when they can lean on their instincts, that's where the success will be.
Yeah, and 5-on-5 I think is maybe a little less challenging, but you see a lot of special teams work in these practices. Even the morning skate, Sweden went through a lot of formations 5-on-4 because those power plays could obviously swing the games with the kind of talent you have. But just because everyone's a star in the NHL, there's a lot of NHL goals scored among both teams in terms of their top power play. It's not a foregone conclusion they're going to have success. And Mika Zibanejad, who's on the top line for Sweden, told me this morning. He said, we have spent a lot of time back here just diagramming plays. He's like, they're trying to find the right fit between what's expected, what's planned, and then obviously letting their talent flow through.
One thing in chatting with Shea Theodore and Colton Parayko and Brad Marchand this morning, in the NHL in recent years, it's really become a popular thing for players to huddle, kind of football style, before a key face-off, and they all thought that you would see a lot of that from Team Canada in this tournament because a lot of guys have never played with each other, and as Brad Marchand says, where you go, depending on the win or the loss on the face-off, could change the outcome of a game. So I think we're going to see a lot of that type of communication even in-game.
And it's been so long since we've really had best on best, right? You can sense with Crosby, McDavid, they're so excited to play together. And it really is a tipping point here and a first taste of what this international competition will be like moving forward. Milano Cortina just less than a year away, and an expectation tonight as well. Gary Bettman, Marty Walsh expected to speak as well, and it looks like there'll be more international competition ahead.
Yeah, we're expecting that they will formalize the 2028 World Cup of Hockey, which is something that's been discussed here for a little period of time, but there's been a negotiation going on with the IIHF and the interested partners over in Europe, and I think it's got to a point now where they're willing to say that, which is obviously fantastic news. Anyone who's here, anyone's excited to see the national team sweaters, that means you get this Four Nations face-off, get Milan in 2026, and then it would be February 2028, a World Cup. So international hockey is officially back for all these NHL players.
It's back, and puck drop will start momentarily. You look ahead, Canada taking on Sweden for their first game of Four Nations action. Last time these two teams saw each other, 2024 World Championship bronze medal game, and it was a Binnington-Gustafsson matchup, and we'll see that again here tonight in Montreal.